For centuries, the Jewish Passover required a massive logistical operation, drawing vast crowds into Jerusalem for the mandatory sacrifice of the Passover lambs. The historian Josephus estimated that on a single Passover afternoon, the priests slaughtered 256,500 lambs in the temple courts. This work took place here, within the massive stone walls of the temple complex. But on one particular Passover, while those thousands of animals were dying inside the city, a single death was occurring outside the walls, on the hill of Golgotha. To understand that death, we have to look at the instructions in Exodus 12. These are the technical requirements for the lamb written 15 centuries before the crucifixion. When we compare the records, we find that the execution on Golgotha was aligned with every variable found in the ancient text. The events follow a precise chronology, anchoring on the 10th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan. The first requirement appears in Exodus 12:3. God tells the congregation that on the 10th day of the month, every man must take a lamb for his household. The Gospel of John places Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, Palm Sunday, on this exact date. On the same day the law required the lamb to be selected and brought into the home, Jesus was publicly presented to the household of Israel. Once chosen, the lamb had to meet a strict physical standard. Exodus 12:5 demands an animal that is absolutely without blemish. The Hebrew word for this condition is tamim. It describes something that is whole, complete, or without physical defect. While tamim refers to physical perfection in animals, the scriptures use the same word to describe moral blamelessness in a person. This standard of perfection is what the New Testament claims for the Messiah, the Lamb who knew no sin. The instructions then mandate a waiting period. The household had to keep the lamb under observation until the 14th day of the month. This creates a 4-day window of scrutiny between the selection and the sacrifice. Living with the animal for 4 days meant the family grew attached to it, ensuring they were intimately aware of its perfection before it was killed. During his final week, Jesus spent these same 4 days under constant public interrogation by the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes. This period of testing concluded with the finding lo matsu vo pegam, meaning no fault was found in him. Just as the ancient households verified the perfection of their lambs, the authorities in Jerusalem spent 4 days searching for a legal or doctrinal flaw in Jesus and found none. The text also dictates the exact time the sacrifice must occur. Exodus 12:6 requires the lambs to be killed at twilight. The Hebrew phrase is bein ha'arbaim, or between the evenings. In the first century, this was understood as the period between the sun's initial ascent and the actual sunset, roughly 3 to 5 p.m. The Mishnah records that the daily evening sacrifice was offered during this window, specifically at the 9th hour, or 3 p.m. When we compare the temple records on the left with the account in the Gospel of Mark on the right, the timing is identical. Both texts anchor the moment of death at the 9th hour. As the priests were slaughtering the lambs in the temple courts, Jesus died on the cross. Following the sacrifice, the blood had to be applied to the home in a very specific way. The blood was struck on the horizontal lintel and the 2 vertical doorposts. By marking the top and the 2 sides of the entrance, the Israelites traced the same physical coordinates that would later support the victim of a crucifixion. Exodus 12:13 explains that this blood is the sole reason the coming judgment passes over the house. The protection did not depend on the morality or the obedience of the people inside. It depended on the blood. This establishes the concept of penal substitution. An in-life is taken so that the judgment meant for the guilty passes over them. One final requirement appears in Exodus 12:46. It specifies that not a single bone of the lamb can be broken. This contradicted standard Roman practice to speed up death by suffocation. Soldiers would typically break the legs of those being crucified. The Gospel of John records that the soldiers did this to the 2 men flanking Jesus. But when they reached the center cross and saw he was already dead, they skipped the procedure. The Roman protocol was abandoned, leaving the ancient Hebrew requirement intact. These soldiers were unaware of the law in Exodus, yet their actions ensured that the final detail of the sacrifice was met. While the Romans were ignorant of the alignment, John witnessed it firsthand and immediately recognized the pattern. Every detail, the date, the hour, the examination, and even the condition of the bones matched the ancient requirements. In the 2nd century, Melito of Sardis provided a summary of how these two events connect. The sheep was corruptible, but the Lord is incorruptible, who was crushed as a lamb, but who was resurrected as God. The ancient instructions provided the shadow, but the events on Golgotha delivered the reality. The Bible is more than history. It is God's plan for redemption. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and journey with us through the people, places, prophecies, and mysteries of Scripture. And before you go, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts.